Hi everybody. Today's video is from my truck in the parking lot at a Dunkin' Donuts because my home internet is so poor. Trying this out, see if it works. This is part 2 of how we use sources. So we already talked about um, what kinds of sources to use and what is research and the preferred order for those sources. Now we're going to talk about integrating outside information. So this is how you put those sources in your work. The um, Not surprisingly, what you did in high school is largely the opposite of what you're supposed to do. There's 3 kinds of ways to integrate information: paraphrasing, summarizing, and quoting. I'm actually going to post a video by a teacher that's much better than my video that will show you how to do these things, but I'm also going to go through this worksheet, which is how I would usually teach it live in class. The first thing you want to do, if you can, with an outside source is paraphrase it. The second thing is to summarize it. And lastly is quoting it. You only want to quote when the exact words matter. Most of the time they won't. You're going to be quoting really dry, boring stuff. You're going to quote statistical stats. You're going to quote research studies. You're going to quote stuff from doctors. It's not poetry. You quote when the exact words matter. When you faked reading To Kill a Mockingbird in high school and you had to do literary analysis, you put quotes from the book in there because the exact quotes matter. We quote Martin Luther King. Let us not judge each other by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. So that repetitive C sound, that alliteration was very powerful, and you quote that. If you're not quoting Martin Luther King type speech, don't put it in quotes. Quotes should be short, they should be relevant, and they should be used very sparingly. It actually becomes a sign of a lazy writer if you use a lot of quotes, because we know you're just cutting and pasting and you're putting quotation marks around it to keep it from being accused of plagiarism. So we mostly want to paraphrase and we mostly want to summarize. Now, paraphrasing is where you've rewritten in your own language, so you don't have to worry about it sounding choppy or awkward. You've rewritten the information in your own language and it's about the same length. That's a paraphrase. A summary is where you take something that's really big, like a whole article, and you shrink it down to one sentence, one point, summarizing it. That's called a summary. These are the 2 ways you mostly want to use to incorporate sources. Now, in this handout, I have a source. Gillian Mincer in 2007 wrote How the Risks May Differ with Debit Cards, Consumer Liability for Losses Vary. You can see the works cited entry right here. Here is the article. I've actually taken some out to make it work for this, but what I've done is, if this was an article I wanted to use things from, and this is the works cited entry for it, here are examples of paraphrasing or summarizing, doing the 3 things you must do. You must signal in when you use an outside source. You have to use the source and you have to signal out. Those things are going to be explained in a integrating sources video from another teacher, and I'm also going to cover it in the next part of this series. Hang in there.